بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والدعوة للهدى والدعوة للخير وحتى أتمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Okay, so we're going to give a quick summary of what we did last week, and then we'll start today's class. All right. So we spoke about Aqidah, how it has been understood by the vast majority of scholars for the vast majority of time, and the interpretive methodology. Then we answered the question of the Ash'aris and the Maturidis, and that's been observable through history. We also looked at today we're going to look at the various Islamic sciences and the scholars who were followers of the Ash'ari school. The Ash'ari school, the Maturidi school, are those who focused on Iman, the pillars of Iman. And what we find is that in the science of tafsir, what's tafsir? The Quranic commentary. What these verses actually mean. And the sciences of Quran, there are various different subjects connected to the Quran, i.e. how we recite the Quran, why certain verses came down, the reasons behind certain verses, and a whole host of different other subjects that is connected to the Quran. It's called Ulum al-Quran. And what we find a variety of different scholars who are leading figures in the science of Quran who belong to the Ash'ari and the Maturidi school, which is interesting. When we come to Hadith scholars, we find again leading scholars of Hadith from various different parts of Islamic history were all followers of the Ash'ari school. And many other commentators on the 6 books of Hadith. And then we look at the 4 schools themselves, the followers of the 4 schools who belong to the Ash'ari and the Maturidi school. And I'm not going to read them all, but you get an idea. That's just some of the Hanifis who follow the Maturidi school. For the Malikis, again, you have a long list. Some of these names are famous. These will be uploaded onto the slides. Just to give you an idea of the various different scholars from the various different ages who belong to the Ash'ari school who are Maliki. Okay? And the Shafi'is, an even longer list. I gave two slides for this one. Because that many. All belong to the Ash'ari school of Aqidah. Alright? Political leaders of the Muslim world who were Ash'ari or Maturidi. Nuruddin Zinki, the ruler who set the stage for Salahuddin Ayyubi's eventual liberation of Jerusalem. Salahuddin Ayyubi himself needs no introduction. And he was a student of the Arabic language and Islamic sciences before he became a general, and he was responsible for freeing the lands, the Holy Lands from the Crusaders. Again, someone who's Ash'ari. And this particular leader as well, Nizam al-Mulk, and also Muhammad al-Fatih, for those who are Turkish or from Turkey. He was the conqueror of Constantinople, of Constantine, and the true founder of the Ottoman Empire, and he also followed these particular schools. All right. Now, critical thinking. What conclusion would you arrive at about the aqidah of these scholars, all these scholars, mashallah, and I just give you a few, there's a lot more. If you believe that the Ash'aris were a deviant sect. So if you believe the Ash'aris were a deviant sect, which they're not, but if you did believe that, what conclusion would you arrive about the aqidah, the belief, the understanding of all of these scholars? It would have to be what? Get the guy a microphone. Imagine. It would help if he sat closer.
You would conclude that the vast majority of scholars for the vast majority of time will deviants.
Alright, the vast majority of scholars for the vast majority of time were deviants. They misunderstood Aqidah. And none of us believe that. Alright, critical thinking exercise number 2. If the majority have been following the wrong aqidah or deviant for over 1,000 years, what would be the ramifications of this, the consequences, in terms of Allah's promise to preserve the deen, as well as the Prophet's hadith, my ummah does not agree on manifest error? What are the consequences of that? What would that mean about that? About Allah's promise to preserve the deen? And my ummah will not agree on manifest error? What would the conclusion be?
Not the promise was not fulfilled.
And with the hadith, my ummah does not agree on
And
manifest error?
the hadith was incorrect.
Can you see what, I'm not going to let you say it, but obviously, can you see what it means? Does that not feel or sound wrong? Does not seem like heretical as well? Huh? Oh, like, hopefully this works. Alright. طيب أشعري لما تريد من dominant. طيب we'll skip that one. Again, history is the biggest proof. How the Ash'aris dealt with anthropomorphism, we know what that means. Okay, there's various hadiths that if you take them literally, they give the idea that Allah has literal human attributes. Nothing can be further from the truth. And we know that the Ash'aris use tafweed, and the Maturidis as well. Tafweed is what? Accepting, negating, consigning. Accept the verse as they've come, without giving a particular meaning from the list of particular meanings. Negating a literalism, and consigning the true meaning to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Again, this is a revision from last week. Alright, and then figurative interpretation, we spoke about that, how the Muslims used figurative interpretation to get around that issue. Then we looked at the Atheries versus the Neo-Atheries. Sadly, there was a rare development in the Hadith school of fiqh. This is where you can read now, give you a break. This is a very quick, just to finish off the topic so we can move on.
Sadly, there was a rare development in the Hanbali school of fiqh centuries ago. A branch of them inclined towards anthropomorphism, giving Allah a bodily form, while claiming to be Athari or Hanbali. This was wholly unpreservative of the Athari/Hanbali as a whole. Ibn Jawzi, a famous Hanbali scholar, wrote a whole book refuting them.
Skip the brackets for now,
Recently translated as The Attributes of God by Abdullah bin Hamid Ali. Unfortunately, this faction still referred to itself as Athari, even today, although the real Atharis/Hanbalis rejected them. Ibn Taymiyyah,
and Ibn Qayyim,
who were examples of this, went so far as to say that their literal interpretations was the way of the early Muslims. We find people today that follow them while mistakenly calling themselves Athari.
So there are people today who will call themselves Athari, but when you look at them and compare them to the real Atharis of the past, they are more closely in line with the Mujassim Mushabbih, or those who draw analogies with Allah's Ashabi human form. Obviously, they call themselves Athari because they follow Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, whereas the true Atharis, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and the early Atharis didn't do that. But today, people will call themselves Athari while claiming to be following that school and they're not. Just be aware of that. You have to be kind of careful around that. Alright, one is obliged to know the Aqidah by learning a particular text with a scholar who's qualified, inshallah ta'ala, not on one's own to learn your Aqidah. Aqidah doesn't take very long to learn. Alright, homework. Tayyib, read this quickly. We'll finish on this before we move on.
If the Asharis and
The Maturidis
have been widely followed by the vast majority of scholars for the vast majority of time and recognized as a sign of Ahlul Sunnah wa Jama'ah, why do we hear people call them deviant and not following the Prophet, Sahaba and Salaf? Who is saying this? Why are they saying it? When did this occur? Where did this occur? How has this happened?
So for 1,000 or more than 1,000 years, right, the vast majority of scholars have followed these particular schools in terms of understanding one's aqidah. Why is it today you can go online and you can find lots of people saying these are deviants, these are misguided people, the Ash'ariyah, the Maturidis are deviant. If you go on YouTube, they have a whole bunch of talks, certain bookshops you go to, it's just, what's happened in recent times that is kind of trying to close off history and write history off, and maybe not even look at history as a way of understanding where we are today. So there are issues. Why? Who is saying this? Why are they saying this? When did this occur? When did this change in mindset occur? For more than 1,000 years, these were schools who everybody followed. The vast majority followed. Great scholars. But now, in this day and age, we're hearing the complete opposite. Who is saying that? Why are they saying that? And when did this occur? Where did this occur? And how did this happen? Inshallah. I want you to go away and think about that, inshallah ta'ala. Recommended reading, The Creed of Imam Tahawi, excellent book. The Creed of Imam Dardir, I know some of you may study this. These are books you can study with the Shaykh, it'd be great, because you have questions. Aqiq al-Awam also, if you can get a hold of that, it'd be difficult, but if you can, that's great. This is an excellent book, Ahlul Sunnah al-Ash'ariyah, I recommended this last week. Excellent book that refutes the criticisms of literalists. Anybody has any criticisms against the Ash'ariyah, that's the book to have, it answers everything. Useful articles, all the other useful articles I recommend you also looking at for further information. Do not ignore these slides because they are very useful things there for you to benefit from, inshallah ta'ala. Right, that's that done. This is why you're here tonight, inshallah. Bismillah. Allah's promise, the miracle of the preservation of Islam. Surely we have revealed the remembrance and the second email, and surely we shall preserve it. Right. We've been speaking about, for the past several weeks, the three dimensions of our religion based on the Hadith of Jibreel. Islam, which is the 5 pillars, Shahada, the 5 prayers, Zakat, fasting, and Hajj. And we've also spoke about Iman, okay, which is what? This is what you guys spoke. Iman is, go ahead.
Belief in Allah, His angels, the scriptures, the messengers, the last day, and destiny.
And Iman, which is tonight's topic. Go ahead.
To worship Allah as if you see Him, and if you cannot, then know that He sees you.
So Islam, the fiqh, and the 4 madhabs deal with Islam in terms of the 5 pillars. The Ash'aris and the Maturidis and the Ahl Hadith deal with the 6 pillars of Iman. But tonight's topic is focused on Ihsan, which is the 3rd pillar, which talks about this particular state. How do you worship Allah as if you see Him? And if you cannot, which is for the most of us maybe the case, then be aware that Allah sees you. How do we gain that? How does that become part of who we are? And the subject, historically, that deals with this particular topic is the science of Tasawwuf in Arabic, or in English, as it's customarily known, Sufism. So tonight's topic, we're going to look at Ihsan, which is to worship Allah as if you see Him, and if you can't, know that He sees you. The topic that historically the scholars of Islam have developed in order for you to reach that particular state, the subject that helps you, that is focused on dealing with that, is called Sufism, or in Arabic, Tasawwuf. Right then. Here's where you start talking. What do you know about Tasawwuf or Sufism? Sisters, there's a microphone somewhere. Bismillah, tell me what you know. Tell me what you've heard. Not Fatiha, somebody else. If you haven't heard anything, just say it. This is where you it's 2 ways. Microphone. Okay, that's a start. Anybody else? There's no right or wrong answer here, just tell me what you know. Okay? Give it a chance. Yasmin, give Yasmin a chance. Nothing? Great. Okay? Remember your name? Aisha. That's easy. Hang on, it's to do with spirituality. Whoa, spirituality. What does spirituality mean? Because what you say, what you refer to as spirituality, some people may think it's something different. So tell me what does spirituality mean? What does it mean to be spiritual? So spiritual. What does that mean? Alright, give me the microphone. To have Iman. Alright? so Iman is faith, in the sense of someone who has strong faith is very spiritual. Anything else? Microphone back to her. You know, I was thinking about your question all week, and I was I need to find the answer, and I always forgot. But you've got my number, right? WhatsApp me, say, don't forget to keep searching for the answer. The book is there, but I always forget. Right? You're on my mind. But remind me. Go ahead. Oh, connection to the unseen. Well, explain that more. The girls are on it tonight. Actually, ignore the guys. Focus on me. When you say unseen, like, talk to me as if I don't know what you mean. Because your answer is for everybody else, and for the recording, people may be listening to this at home at some point, and obviously, I know what you're saying, but I want you to explain it for the people.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to describe the difference when it comes to Islam, like between the religion and the spiritual side of things. So religion has actions you take.
Okay, hang on a minute, mashallah. So you shouldn't get to class, mate. Mashallah, sit down. Yeah. But the religious actions you take, but the spirituality is the substance. Very nice. Where did you get that from? Come on, it's like that. You're right. You're right. Jameel. Alright, will you be all alone? Bismillah, Ibrahim? No, not the new guys. Jamie, I expect you to know this. Jamie, what do you know about Sufism or Tasawwuf?
That it's one of the Islamic sciences.
One of the Islamic sciences. What do you mean by sciences? Abdullah, sorry.
Like something that has a methodology to it that like you have to learn, and then
There's a methodology that we have to learn. So something that we have, it's not voluntary, we have to learn. Good. Your name next you finished, sorry, you finished? Okay, what's your name?
Nadir.
Nadir. What do you know about Tasawwuf? Sufism? You don't know anything, it's okay, no problem. Nothing? No problem. Abdullah?
This is the first time I'm...
Microphone?
Sorry.
How about our esteemed brother on the computer?
Yeah, this is the first time I'm reading it, so I don't know if you...
Great. Anybody other than Ibrahim and Luqman? Because you guys expect... Give Hamza the microphone. Give the microphone there. Pass that one to him.
There's like sort of like spiritual side, inner connection with God.
Inner connection with God. And you said something similar, and somebody else said something similar. Inner connection with God. Okay.
I guess like I don't really know much, but I know like they go like zikr to like
Dhikr. What's dhikr?
remembrance.
Remembrance. Okay.
It's gonna be, I don't know too much, but I know like they try this sort of like spiritual inner relation with God.
Inner relation with God. MashaAllah. In all the years I've been delivering this, I would say tonight's probably the best responses I've heard. MashaAllah. Very, very good. There's a level there of awareness, understanding. And for those who don't know, great, because that's what I'm here for. And that's great as well, so well done. Alright, typically, most of you won't give these answers, but typically, people may say the following things. Right? A lot of these are wrong, FYI. They do bid'ah. But now I know that there is such a thing as a good bid'ah. Whirling dervishes in Turkey. They have strange practices. None of you guys said that tonight. Right? They do dhikr out aloud, which kind of alluded to that. Chanting and dancing. They have different groups. They are not in the green, but in the blue circle. Obviously, those who've been coming, they know what that means. Okay. There's a great deal of misinformation and a great deal of confusion. If you go online, you'll find warnings, be careful. Sufism is the devil. Sufism is this bad. Sufis are misguided. Sufis are deviant. Blah, blah, the whole list of things. But you find, I should have stopped, I should have shown you as well, but we find the famous Imam Malik, who's from the Salaf, said, whoever studies fiqh and, Jamie, Bismillah, where's the microphone?
Whoever studies fiqh and didn't study Sufism will be corrupted, and whoever studies Sufism and didn't study fiqh will be a heretic, and whoever combine both will reach the truth.
So we find somebody from the early Muslims, Imam Malik, this great scholar, the founder of the Maliki school, the great Imam of Medina, somebody who, when he was asked to talk about a hadith, he would go, he'd have a full shower, do wudu, put nice clothes on, put perfume on, and then come out and recite the hadith or relay the particular hadith. This is an imam who would not walk in Medina with his shoes on out of respect for the ground, because that's the ground the Prophet walked on. He says, he's a great imam of knowledge. Whoever studies fiqh is the rulings. What's halal, what is haram. How do you live your life as a Muslim? Imam Malik says, whoever studies fiqh and didn't study Sufism will be corrupted. You corrupt yourself. You become a corrupted individual. Why? Because as we've heard tonight, that connection to God isn't there. And whoever studies Sufism, but without studying the Sharia, without studying fiqh, alright, it's all spiritual, but no Sharia, no halal, no haram, they become a heretic, as Imam Malik says. However, the person who joins between spirituality and Sharia, between the spiritual way and living a life as a Muslim, halal or haram, alright, they will reach the truth. So what we learn from that, okay, is that Tasawwuf or Sufism is a very important topic, and the early Muslims spoke about it and used the word Sufism. So tonight's class, right, is all about spirituality in Islam. And it's all about the heart, as we're about to find out.
What is a Sufi? The best definition of both the Sufi and his way, certainly one of the most frequently quoted by masters of discipline, is from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, who says,
pay attention to this hadith. There's going to be a hadith, you're going to see this hadith. I want you to pay attention to the different stages of the hadith. To the what? The different stages of the hadith. So Bismillah.
O Allah Most High says, "He who is hostile to a friend of mine, I declare war against."
This hadith begins by saying, Allah says, anybody that is hostile to a friend of mine, I declare war against them. The idea is what? Allah has friends, people who are close to Him, His awliya. You're going to say, well, Allah is close to everybody, okay? But Allah is closer to some than others. Some are more beloved to Allah than others. The prophets are more beloved to Allah than people who aren't prophets. The Sahaba are more beloved to Allah than those who aren't the Sahaba. And then throughout the centuries, mashallah, the one who's obedient Muslim is more closer to Allah than the one who's disobedient. That's how it works, right? But the idea that Allah has friends, in Arabic called awliya, is important. You got that? Next point. And if you harm these friends of Allah, Allah declares war. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only declares war on two people. Number one, those who do interest, and number two, those who harm His friends. Allah declares war. And if Allah declares war on you, are you going to win? What chances you have? It's game over. Alright, so the hadith begins with that. The next part of the hadith.
My slave approaches me with nothing more beloved to me than what I have made obligatory upon him.
So, what is an obligation upon us is to pray 5 times a day, to give zakah, to go to Hajj, fast Ramadan, which is coming very soon. Allah says, my slave, and we're all slaves, are we not, approaches me to Allah with nothing more beloved to me than that which I have made an obligation upon them. Number one. You understand that? Great. Keep following, this is important. And then what happens?
My slave keeps drawing nearer to me with voluntary works until I love him.
So the slave, the Muslim, continues drawing nearer to Allah, but not in the same way as the one before, who only does the thing which he has to do, or she has to do. This individual ends up doing more things. By virtue of those things, that individual becomes closer to Allah. And those things that he is doing, or she is doing, is voluntary acts. What do I mean by voluntary acts? Coming to a class. Doing sunnahs. Fasting Mondays and Thursdays. Giving charity. These are all extra acts. Smiling in the face of your brother or sisters. Okay? Being nice. These are all voluntary acts, extra acts. Plenty of good things that you guys can do. But you pay attention. My slave keeps drawing nearer to me. Keeps going. By doing voluntary acts, sunnah acts. Until I love him. Pay attention to where the love of Allah comes. At which point, what happens is that,
and when I love him, and I am his hearing with which he hears, his sight with which he sees, his hand with which he seizes, and his foot with which he walks. If he asks me, I will surely give to him, and if he seeks refuge in me, I will surely protect him.
So, can you see the different stages? What's happening there is Allah is giving you a blueprint. Allah is giving you a way of how to become close to Him. Number one, what's the first one? Allah saying, I have friends, people who I love. And if anybody hurts them, I declare war on them. The hadith then goes on to explain, how do you become His friends? How do you become from the awliya? Because Allah loves these people. So the hadith is a story of love. How can we attract Allah's love for us? How do we make Allah love us? You with me? And the hadith goes on. Number one, you approach Allah. It's a journey. By doing acts which Allah told you to do. You can't become close to Allah by not praying or fasting or doing any of these things. No. You have to start with that. But then you keep going. doing extra acts. MashaAllah. And at that point, what happens? When you start doing voluntary acts, what happens? What happens? Yasmin, what happens? When you do voluntary acts, extra, what does Allah give you? Where's the microphone? Give me the microphone. Good, and put it close. Put the microphone on as well. Allah's love. Who wouldn't want that? Do you know what that means? If Allah loves you, can you imagine Allah loves you? You forget your husband, or future husband, or future wife, or your mother, your father, or whoever. This is Allah. If Allah loves you, then. But then, what happens to you? Can you see the transformation of a human being? It transforms to the point where, and if I love him, Jamie, what happens? When I love him, I am
His hearing with which he hears, his sight with which he sees, his hand with which he seizes, and his foot with which he walks.
So you then become a human being immersed in Allah's love. That everything you do is a love story between you and Allah. Everything about you is love. You are engrossed in mahabbah of Allah Azza wa Jal. And therefore, if Allah loves you, you see with the sight of the one who loves you. You talk, your speech is a speech of one who loves you. Your walk is the walk of someone who loves. In other words, alright, you become a godly human being, not godlike. You have to explain that these days. You become a godly human being, and Raja Rabbani. Alright, and then what happens? And if you at that point, when you reach that, and this is for man or woman, if you reach that point when you make dua to Allah, Allah answers your dua because He loves you. Allah is not going to ignore you. And if He seeks refuge and protection, I will surely protect him. Allah is not going to ignore you. Hands up, who wants that? Apart from Abdurrahman, everybody else seems to want it. Great, inshallah. Hadith in Bukhari, narrated by Fath al-Bari. Bismillah. طيب, analyzing the hadith. Alright, so what I've done, I've broken down the hadith and I've put it into points. So the hadith talks about a friend of mine. How do I become a friend of Allah? Well, the hadith then talks about to approach Him. How? It's a journey about becoming closer to Allah. It's a journey. How? You begin that journey by doing that which is an obligation. Prayer, zakah, the things you have to do, you start with that. Alright? There's no jumping when I'm missing this point, no. But then, when you keep, at that point, you keep drawing nearer to Allah. You keep becoming closer to Allah. But how? How do you draw nearer to Allah? By doing the voluntary acts. By doing sunnahs. In the broadest sense. And sunnah doesn't mean actions, it also means the sunnah of the heart. What's the sunnah of the heart? Mercy. Arguably can be followed. Having respect, having humility. These are sunnahs of the heart. The Prophet was a humble, loving person that forgave people. Forgiveness. Right? And then, until I love him. Right? What effect on a human being who's gone on this journey now? What is the effect of love on this human being? And when I love him, I am his hearing with which he hears. You only hear that what pleases Allah. The sight which he sees, you only see that which pleases Allah. And you become you see the world in the correct way. Because you have light in your heart. And you can see what these things mean. You can understand how the world works. And more importantly, you can give answers to solutions. You can give solutions to problems. Because you are seeing with the light of Allah. Allah's placed a light in your heart. You can see answers to problems. And if He asks me, and we all ask Allah, we all want something from Allah at one particular point or not. The dua is answered. Allah said, I answer. And if He seeks refuge in me, I will protect him. Like, Tasawwuf or Sufism teaches you how to reach that state. The subject of Tasawwuf, Sufism, is all about that. How do we take you and get you on that journey to the point where Allah loves you? How do we, because you can pick up the hadith and you can read the hadith as you've read it. But does that change? You've read the hadith. Do you now see the light of Allah? Do you walk? You talk? The transformation, has it happened to you already? Are you transformed yet by reading it? No. So there's something has to happen. Do you understand? This is not like DIY. You pick a book up, read it, and that's it. Alhamdulillah, mashallah, I'm there. No. I wish it was that easy. Yeah, mashallah, but it's not. Nor should it be. Alright, so ihsan, or tazkiyah, or tarbiyah, or tasawwuf, or Sufism, call it what you want, it all means the same thing. Listen, Jane.
Three terms all mean the same thing: to worship Allah as if you see Him. Tasawwuf is the historical term that has been used by the scholars. English, Sufism. Greatly misunderstood in this age due to ignorance of some who claim to practice it and ignorance of those who criticize it. Let's first examine Tasawwuf from a historical perspective and see what it is, what it does, and what scholars have said about it.
So the first thing, like with anything, there are people who practice it correctly and people who practice it incorrectly. So it's important that we understand what is the correct understanding and the correct practices before we start to maybe listen to the criticisms that may or may not be right. And people may be criticizing it without any knowledge. So there's a problem there. But it's all about knowledge. Alright? So let's examine Tasawwuf from a historical perspective. Alright, what does the Quran and the Hadith say about Tasawwuf? Anyone?
Allah has been truly gracious to the believers in sending them a messenger from among their own, to recite His revelations to them, to purify them, and to teach them the scripture and wisdom before that they were clearly astray. On a day that neither wealth nor children will be of any benefit, except he who comes to Allah with a sound heart.
Right. So the first verse of the Quran gives us an insight into the idea that we as human beings need to be cleansed or purified. Right? And we are not talking outwardly, like washing your body. No. There's a purification of the inner. Alright? Allah has truly been gracious to the believers in sending them a messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam from amongst them, the human beings, to recite His revelation to them and to purify them. I'll put it in red. So what? Purify them. That's important. The prophets, one of the main aims of the prophet was to purify people. Take them from disbelief and take them to belief. But not stop there. It's a prolonged journey. Take them from belief to the highest levels of belief that is possible of a human being other than the prophets. Do you see that? Alright. What about the heart? What about the heart? Look, if I say to somebody, right, so-and-so has a good heart. Fatiha. Give Fatiha the microphone. That's me. The microphone. If I say so-and-so has a good heart, what does that mean? Yeah, you can speak. It's a bit more than that, come on. Good heart. Yeah, what does it mean? A good person. Right. And Abdullah. Microphone to Abdullah. If I say so-and-so has a bad heart.
Like this is opposite of being first of the mean and
Mean, stingy, horrible, bad character. So we have these terms, good heart and a bad heart. As human beings, we understand that it's ajib. The character, the behavior of human beings reflects the heart. You understand that? I'll repeat that again. The heart reflects in the character. Good heart, good person. And we've said it. But how many of you are aware that that's an Islamic principle? It's an Islamic principle. That the heart, if it's good, the body does good things. If the heart is bad, the body does bad things. In fact, it behaves in a bad way. So what does Allah say about the heart? On the day that neither wealth nor children will be of any benefit except he who comes to Allah with a sound heart. A sound heart. Qalbun salim. What's Allah saying? Girls, what does Allah want from your heart? Does Allah want you just to pray and fast and doesn't matter what kind of heart you have and that's it? Prayer and fast are important. We mentioned before. You begin your journey by doing that which is an obligation. No talk on that. Move on. But, is that all it is? How many people do we know? Pray, fast. But they lie, cheat, deceive, harm people without a blink of the eye. Kill people. On Wednesday, in the book, mashallah, those who were there, we spoke about that. And these are people who pray. There are, ISIS and these guys, they pray, mashallah. I can tell you, they pray. Afterwards, they get prisoned and they stop praying. For the most part, they pray and they fast and do all these things. But the prayer and fast hasn't changed them. The heart is still bad. So it's not enough that you pray or fast. And you memorize Quran, that's not enough either. Because all of those things need something from inside. If it's not there, you are closer to punishment than reward. Alright, you see my point? Let's continue the conversation of the heart. Aywa, Jamie?
And in a famous hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says that, verily, in the body there is a piece of flesh. If it is sound, the body is all sound. If it is corrupt, the body is all corrupt.
Interesting hadith, right? That describes what we may see. Verily, in the body, in your body, right? There's a piece of flesh. There's an organ. If it is sound, if it is healthy, right? The body is healthy. The body is sound. The body is good. And I don't mean physically only, I mean spiritually. You feel good. You're on a high spiritually. But if it is corrupt, if this piece of flesh is corrupted, is bad, is rotten, then what happens to the rest of the body?
Corrupt.
Huh? The rest of the body is what?
It's all corrupt.
Corrupt. Right. Important. There's something inside us that is important. That makes us good and bad. Not the intellect. Something else. What did the Prophet say? Does anybody want to know what the girls? Anybody know what this flesh is? The heart. Let's see what the Prophet said. The heart, huh? Na'am. You are right. The heart. Ania. Have a look. طيب. I'm trying. Yeah? Also, this is important. Yeah. Jamie, problem.
Verily, Allah does not look at your forms nor your bodies. However, He looks upon your hearts.
Let's pause a second and read that hadith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His concern is not your body, how you look. Not your form. Are you Arab or non-Arab? Are you male or female? It's not important to Allah. Big, tall, old, thin, beard, no beard. Allah's not interested in any of that. Because what Allah is interested in and what Allah gazes upon is the heart. Let me see the heart. What's in the heart? If it's love, if it's mercy, if it's compassion, if he sees the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the heart of a human being, Allah is happy. But if we look at your heart and his hatred for ulama, hatred for scholars, hatred for the friends of Allah, hatred for the Muslims, arrogance against other Muslims, distaste, hasad, jealousy. No, Allah is not interested in that. In order for you to attract the gaze of the pure Allah, your heart has to be pure. You understand? طيب أيها جيني تفضل.
Mindful of these commandments, the Islamic scholars have worked out a science of analyzing the states of the heart and the methods of bringing it into this condition of soundness. Over time, this science acquired the name Tasawwuf in English, Sufism. A traditional label for what we might nowadays more intelligibly call Islamic psychology.
So, just like the ulama, when they began to structure the madhabs, when fiqh had yet to be developed, the mujtahidun, the four imams, and there was other mujtahids, they sat and began to systemize fiqh, develop fiqh into a science, develop the sharia into a science. And the ulama of Aqidah, the Asha'ira and the Maturidiyya did the same thing, systemize Aqidah. The ulama in Ihsan, spirituality, began to do the same thing. What do we know about the heart? What did the Prophet say about the heart? They gathered all the information. What's in the Quran? What did the Prophet say? How did the Prophet take these great Sahaba and make them from the greatest of human beings that had ever lived? Umar ibn Khattab, lest you forget, when he became Muslim, he went to kill the Prophet. His heart, he wanted to kill the Prophet. But he went to sleep that night Muslim. And then you see that Umar ibn Khattab, this man of brute force, you see him at his khilafah, how he was at khilafah, a totally different human being. If you read Umar ibn Khattab, you see Tasawwuf. You see a human being, Allah transforming a human being through the Prophet. Why? Because Allah said to purify them. And you look at Umar, amazing. He's an amazing, just watch him from the beginning all the way till he dies. So, and how he was and how the person he became. Completely different human beings. But Tasawwuf can also be called Islamic psychology. Right, who's Arab here? From you girls. Who's Arab? You? Okay. Translate for me. Ilm and nafs. And that, the more posh word is what? What's the posh word for that is psychology. Knowing oneself. See what I mean? Ilm and nafs. To know oneself. That is Tasawwuf. Why? Because how are you gonna not know your heart? What's in your heart? The character that is within your heart. The character that comes out of your heart. If you don't know yourself, you don't know Allah. وَمَنْ عَرَفَ نَفْسَهُ عَرَفَ رَبَّهُ. If you know yourself, you know Allah. Why? Because you get to know yourself, who you are. And you see, there's things in my heart that if anybody else saw, I'd be very embarrassed. There are things about me that people knew, I'd be very embarrassed. But, brother and sister, Allah knows it. Why are you not embarrassed? Tasawwuf comes and remedies that. So Tasawwuf is Islamic psychology. And nobody has any problems with Islamic psychology. Right. Alright, listen now, Jamie.
It is of the utmost importance for any believer that they should be concerned with their soul and the states of their hearts.
Alright, so I'm going to give you a definition of a person that we may call a person of Tasawwuf or a Sufi. Here's a definition, and there are many. I read subhanAllah, some of the ulama said 600 definitions. There are about 600 definitions. But we'll go with this one, inshallah. Are you ready? So this is what is a person of Tasawwuf? Here we are.
Sufism is the knowledge of states of the human soul and heart, through which one recognizes the diseases of the heart, how to replace them, and what to replace them with.
Okay, so that's the definition. Alright? Tasawwuf, Islamic psychology, whatever you want to call it, tazkiyah, whatever you want to call it, is the knowledge of the states of the human soul and heart. Knowledge of your heart. Why, when I see so-and-so, why do I get angry? You're smiling there. When I see so-and-so, why do I get happy? When such and such a thing happens, I feel a certain way. When such and such a thing doesn't happen, I feel the opposite way. What's going on in my heart? Why am I feeling the things I'm feeling? Then, to recognize the disease of the heart. I don't mean like physical disease, I mean spiritual disease. Sisters, mashallah. I'm not picking on you guys, but I see a lot of hope over here. Yeah. Disease of the heart. Can you give me a disease of the heart? Give me the microphone. Jealousy, yeah? Anybody else? A disease of the heart. Right at the back. Greed. Anything else? Give Yasmin. Envy. Back to you. Arrogance. Okay, hands up. After all of them, which is the one you hate the most? Arrogance. Okay, hands up. Arrogance. Who hates arrogance the most? After all of them. Alright, okay, well, Yasmin, what is the one thing you hate most? Envy. Why? Give it the microphone. Adam needs to record it.
I feel like with arrogance, that can be something that like someone has around that you can kind of like get away from as you grow and mature as a person. I feel like envy is something that's stuck with someone for a long time. Like, I feel like envy is, it's harder to get rid of envy than arrogance.
Envy is harder. Hasad. It's harder to get rid of. Anybody else? Give it a microphone.
Envy is stubborn people.
Stubborn. Is that the one you hate the most?
Yeah.
Huh?
Like someone with a high ego.
High ego. Okay. Microphone. Explain what you mean. High ego.
So like, they always think they're in the right about something.
Why do you hate that? What is it about that you hate? No?
There are always two sides to the story. So if you're a student, you always study things online without giving other people an opinion, a chance to express their opinion, which is kind of really annoying.
I'm always right. Doesn't matter what you have to say. Even if you are right, I am accepting it. In Arabic, it's called anid. Anid, huh? No. And to be honest, the underlying problem there is arrogance. No, I'm not going to take it from you. No. There's no way. No. Because there's a lack of humility. You can't accept it from somebody else. Allah protect us. After that, brothers, mashallah. You guys can go home early tonight. What was my question? Disease of the heart. Bismillah. Alright, Jamie, you got the microphone?
Vanity.
Vanity. What's that?
Like, I understand it as like sort of caring about too much about oneself and their sort of perception, like their perception of themselves and other people's perception of them.
Alright, okay. Did you have your hand ready? Give him the microphone, sorry. Is the microphone on? Put it on.
This is a lot.
Yeah, give me one that you hate most.
There's a lot of hate, but
Oh, easy. Just one.
I'll pick one. We lost.
Lust. Explain what you mean. You're being recorded live, by the way. Lust. I want to talk.
You see society nowadays, especially Western society, it's all about it's all about sex and everything. So everything nowadays is about showing off the body and everything.
The sexual desires. That
It's like,
a lot of people wouldn't even recognize that as a disease of the heart, and you're right. Right. Most people wouldn't even recognize that. Excellent. Eva, you can pass the microphone back in. Sugar.
With lying happen.
Lying, naam, that's a disease, disease of the heart. What else? The guys are pure, no diseases.
Treating people equally.
Alright, treating people unequally, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
What is the disease of the heart there? I treat people differently.
Racism.
Hold on, who said that? Okay, Hamza, pause, right? There's nothing wrong with treating certain people differently. Some of you girls get on with each other more than others. Nothing wrong with that. We are not talking about who you get on with and who you don't get on with. What we are talking about is that on a level, there are some people that you just treat really badly, and you have no right to treat them badly. We're not talking about who you get on with. Everyone likes different people. Andy. But, anyway, you said what?
Well, now that you said about hating people for no reason, there's
No, you're right. I want to
racism, I guess.
Racism, right. Racism. I hate so-and-so because of how they look. I'm better than so-and-so because I have a particular nationality. What is the underlying disease of the heart there? Microphone. Arrogance. Excellent. Shahid. Pride. Right. Other disease of the heart? Reen. Give Reen the microphone. Tanya. Ria. Alright, that's Arabic. Translate it to English. Showing off. Okay. What? Huh? Okay, wait. Alright. Showing off. Being superficial. What's wrong with that though? Because people go online and I did this today on social media and I did this on Instagram and pickies, like I can pick them next to Kaaba and Umrah or whatever else. And what's wrong with that?
I think there's nothing wrong with it.
I didn't say there wasn't either. I'm not asking you.
Depends on the intention.
Ah!
A lot of people have the underlying intention of being arrogant.
Uh-huh. Can you see? There's a lot going on with any human being. And all of us, including the one speaking, has elements of what you said. And it's upon us that we learn from the doctors who can cure us from these diseases. Otherwise, what is the point of you learning and studying and you have arrogance in your heart? You have hatred in your heart. You think yourself better than everybody else. And that's a sin. Is that not a sin? I'll just give you an example. I remember when I was in Cardiff, there was a man who, he told me the reason why he was kind of moving away from Islam, but one of the reasons he kind of moved away completely, and many years later he came back. That's another story. But he said one day he was walking past the mosque and he felt bad that he wasn't praying. And then a man, an elder, said to him, with good intention, I think, said, A'udhu billah, look at you. You should be praying. What's wrong with you? Do you know? And went off on him. And that pushed him away. Because it made him say, who are you to judge me? Just because you pray, it doesn't in and of itself make me a bad Muslim. Yes, I'm sinning. But you're sinning in other things. Just because your sin is hidden and mine is open doesn't make it any less of a sin. Shall I give you another example? There was a man recently, and he was with a group of people. And one of these people, subhanAllah, he knew from a long time ago. He hadn't seen him for many years. And he came across him. And he saw it, he smelt on his breath marijuana, weed. And the brother said, A'udhu billah, this brother is still doing this. Because he was smoking weed from a young age. All these years later, this brother is still smoking weed. A'udhu billah. He didn't say anything. He kept it to himself. Then he stopped. And he felt bad. And he said, subhanAllah, he is sinning very openly. And that's his struggle. He has a bad habit. And he's struggling. And after many years, he's still struggling with this bad habit. But it's a bad habit that I can see. Whereas I have many bad habits that I'm struggling for a similar length of time. But just because Allah has hidden it and shown his doesn't make mine any less than his. Do you understand my point? It's a very important point. Everybody has their issues, has their problems, has what's going on in their hearts. And what's in the heart comes out in the face. But none of us should judge. Everyone's struggling in whatever way they're struggling. And just because my struggle is different, who am I to judge? That doesn't mean that if I see something wrong, I remain silent. No. But it's not for everybody to correct. Only certain people who have knowledge. In the Ihya al-Madinah, Imam al-Ghazali mentions 3 things, conditions for somebody to do al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa nahy 'anil munkar to go in Ihya al-Madinah. Anyway, Bismillah. Just want to pause on that point. Bismillah. Anyway. Alright, hey, Bismillah, Jamie.
How to purify the heart from blameworthy traits and replacing it with that which is praiseworthy.
Keep going.
It is called traveling to become closer to Allah. This is a journey to Allah that aims at striving to purify your heart through knowledge and good works.
Okay, so how would you purify your heart? How would you clean this heart of yours, right? And what we are doing, you've got all these diseases that you have, and by the way, you all have some of them, at some levels. How? Can you take it out? Can you go to a doctor and say, book you in for an operation, right? You have an operation. Doctor, can you replace anger, jealousy, hasad? Can you take it out and put it, remove it and put kindness and generosity and humility? Do you have an operation on the NHS? No. I wish it was that easy. But unlike the diseases, the physical disease of the heart, The spiritual diseases are more dangerous for you on Yawm al-Qiyamah, because it could take you to hell. Because we know nobody enters into heaven with a mustard seed worth of arrogance. Seed of arrogance, you don't go to heaven. Arrogant. Allah protect us. Allah purify us. So the idea is the journey. You are on a journey. You are far from Allah to begin with, and you then go on this journey. Suluk. The journey is called suluk. You're asalik. You're becoming closer to Allah on this journey. And on that journey, you're going to fall. You're going to trip up. You're going to make mistakes. Don't worry, get up, but keep going. But the journey needs a guide. The journey needs a guide. Because how are you going to operate on yourself? You can't pick up a book that says how to get rid of arrogance and read it in a night and that's it, right? Arrogance is gone. No more arrogance, I'm humble. Can you do that? Can you read a book? Or read a hadith? No. It takes effort. But at that point, when you do that, you reach a spiritual state. You worship Allah as if you can see Him. Everything about you are with Allah Azza wa Jalla. Anyone? Alright, keep going.
Came into being to preserve and transmit a particular aspect of the Sharia, that of ikhlas or sincerity.
How many of us want to be sincere? I ask you, why have you come to the class this evening? Everybody gave answers. Right? But the real answer should be, I want to become close to Allah. Somebody said that over here. Right? I want to become closer to Allah. That's the whole point. There's no food. There's no money. I've got nothing to give you. There's no degree at the end of this. There's no graduation at the end of this. You get nothing out of this. But what do you get out of this? What do you get out of this, girls? Being closer to Allah, which does not need any money, any enrollment, any degree, any university. It needs sincerity. But sincerity, how do I become sincere? How do I make my sincerity sincere? Yes? Bismillah.
Scholars recognize that the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ was not only words and actions, but also states of being. That a Muslim must not only say certain things and do certain things, but must also be a certain way, have a spiritual state.
So all of us should have a spiritual state. We should not be empty. And the reason we are empty is we have no spirituality. That's why we're empty. That's why a lot of the times you feel low. We don't know why. How low iman? It's not low iman, it's low yaqeen. And you can't tell the difference between iman and yaqeen because this science you have been exposed to. But the ulama talk about it. Iman, faith and yaqeen are two different things. Alright, as we know, the hadith says, until I love him, until he become, I am the hearing which he hears, the sight which he sees, his hand which he sees, and so on and so on. A human change. Alright, Bismillah.
The Sharia commands one, for example, in many Quranic verses and prophetic hadiths, to fear Allah, to have sincerity, humility. One worships Him as if one sees Him, to love the Prophet more than any other human being, to show love, respect and mercy towards others, and to have many other states of the heart.
Right, let me ask you guys a question. We all agree on that, right? They are good things we should have. What stops you, girls? What stops you from doing that? What stops you from doing some of these things? How many times have you heard, oh, what she did is unforgivable? Have you heard that before? Huh? Come on, what she did, unforgivable what they did. Unforgivable. Unforgivable, why? What they did, I can never forgive. Why? Because Allah forgives all sins if you are committing sin. Are you better than Allah? Because Allah can forgive all sins. Boys, what stops you from having these things?
Arrogance.
Hamza, arrogance. Tell me why arrogance, hypothetically, prevents somebody from having this.
Lack of a growth mindset, so you don't want to
Lack of
change. You don't want to change.
Which is stubborn, right? I'm not going to change. That's how I am. I've been like this for all my life. Then can you change maybe for whatever remains of your life? So you have a good life in the next life maybe?
It just leads to a loop, doesn't it? You don't ever change, so you can't really build up like sincerity or humility or anything like that.
You can't fake it, can you?
No, you can't. No.
Can you girls ever, do you ever sense when somebody's being fake? Yeah? Why? How do you tell? You just do. Because your heart recognizes something. Guys, do you know when someone's fake? As an iman, you have to use that one very quickly. Very quickly. I got burnt a lot when I was younger. Not anymore. Not anymore. Aywa? How?
Shaitan.
Shaitan? Oh, why are you blaming him for?
What's
What he done to you?
He might whisper things into your mind and you know.
Okay, it's a good point. The devil made me do it. Wasn't my fault. We're going to keep that, we're going to come to that.
We're still asking how we can tell if someone's fake.
I forgot, I don't know what I'm talking about. There's so many good things I'm learning from you guys that I forgot what I asked. What did I ask?
I was going to say inconsistency in behaviour is a
What was
way.
the question I asked?
You asked how can you tell if someone's being fake.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's paying attention.
I was going to say inconsistency in someone's behaviour.
Okay. Inconsistency in someone's behavior, right? Hey, you had your hand at the back?
Yeah, but it wasn't about faking. I was going to add to you said what stops someone from
Okay, give me the microphone.
connection to your work with silence.
Oh, mashallah. I have to sit down now. You should come down with the class. Connection. Say it again.
Like connection or willingness to give up your work with silence.
Wait, the first time was best. Don't change it. Don't change it.
Yeah, connection to work with silence.
Allah. Connection to the word desires. That there, I would say, encapsulates everything. Your connection to your worthy desires. MashaAllah. Okay. Anyway, Jamie, still here? Keep going.
It likewise forbids us such inward states as envy, malice, pride, arrogance, love of this world, anger for the sake of one's ego, showing off, and so on. Al-Hakim,
Wait, we'll pause that one. Alright. When you are, back to you girls, when you have some of these things, what stops you then from behaving like that? Can anything stop you when you have jealousy, as she mentioned, or pride, or arrogance? You know it's wrong, don't you? But why can you, like, A, not recognize it, because you're in the midst of it, but why do you, like, ignore it and keep going with it? You know it's wrong. You know you shouldn't feel like that. Microphone.
Like it makes you feel better.
Oh, it makes you feel better. Right. So, okay, but these are bad states. These are states that. So, why do these bad states make you feel, as you said? It makes you. But it feels good. Why? Why are these things that make you feel good? These things should not make you feel good. Anything with girls while the microphone's still there? Reem. Sometimes, we're human beings. I understand we're human beings, but why is it that there's times when we have these things And we still go with it, we still roll with it. We still continue with the hasad and the envy and the bukhl and the karahiyya and all these, we still roll with it, but we know it's wrong. Alright, freshen up on your people, your environment. Brothers? Shahid? Shahid, you in the right now? Next one.
Because when you do this, your nafs loves it, and you want to do it more and more.
So your nafs loves it, you love it. Huh? Because there's a sweetness. It's not sweetness, it's poison. You can't tell the difference. How can you tell when you're doing something for the sake of Allah and when it's for the sake of yourself? Let me repeat that question. How can you tell the difference between when you're doing something for the sake of Allah and between when it's for the sake of yourself? Can you even tell? Have you ever thought about that? Huh? You got mashallah. You girls tonight, mashallah. Yeah. MashaAllah.
You feel at peace when you do it for Allah.
Okay?
You feel at peace, more at peace.
Feel peace, sakina,
Yeah.
tama'ina. But my question goes back. The times when you don't do that, I'm not saying you don't, I'm saying generally people, other people, how can you tell when it's for Allah and when it's for yourself? Like for example, when you get angry, right? This is for the deen. This is for the deen of Allah. That's not, wait. How do you tell, can you tell when it's for Allah or for yourself?
I don't know if you
These boys have to catch up with you girls. Give them a chance. They got loads of hands up here. They're already saying, why is he giving time to the women? Equal opportunities, this Imam. Jamie.
If you still do that action when the rewards to yourself are taken away, then or that action brings on some other hardship and you still do it.
Right. Mashallah, it sounds really good. Give us a practical example that everyone can understand.
So, for example, people coming to the class tonight at the beginning, you said, why did you come when it's cold and rainy and wet? If coming to the class has incurred some kind of hardship onto you, and you've still done it without any extra added benefit, then that's an indication that...
So when you overcome the hardship, then that's a sign of sincerity. Okay? Allow me to disagree with you. Can I? But what happens if I'm overcoming all these difficulties, but have another agenda? It's not for Allah. Or I may think it's for Allah, but it's not for Allah. It's myself. Then what? How can you tell? And more importantly, have you ever thought about that? And if you have, why can't you tell? This is what makes Muslims the best of nations of all time. This is what makes the Sahaba the Sahaba. You think Umar al-Khattab came out of nowhere? This type of stuff. Again, my question. Ibrahim.
I feel like before you do something, any particular action, it might look outwardly good, but sometimes taking a step back and looking at the root cause of why you're doing something.
The root cause of why you're doing something.
It may present more of a reflection of why you're actually going to do something, as opposed to what it might look like. Like, you can go and give charity or go to a class, and you might do it and it might look good outwardly, but to self-reflect and to think, right, what's the real motivating cause for me to get up and go through hardships to do something?
Give me an example of the wrong reason in those situations. Because you're right. And look, nobody can judge. You know, an individual may show behavior that may give indication, but that's between him and Allah. But this is to judge ourselves. That's something I forgot to say. The science of Tasawwuf is to be self-critical, not to use this to say, so-and-so is envy, oh, subhanAllah, the Imam spoke about this. You know, sister so-and-so, that's exactly what, no. This is for you to be self-critical of yourself. It's not for you to use all this knowledge and start pointing your fingers at other people. Point the fingers at yourself. Why? Allah is not going to ask about me. Allah is going to ask about me. Allah is not going to ask about my arrogance. I wish He did, because I don't have anything to talk about. But Allah is going to ask you about yourself and me about me. It's a musibah. So you focus on yourself. This knowledge is for you to focus on yourself, to perfect yourself. Anyway, so where was I?
You're asking me for an example.
Anyway, did you give it?
No.
Alright, Bismillah.
So, for example, maybe if you were to be out and about, like in town or something, and you see members of the community on a street, and people that you know who you want to impress, and there's a homeless person sat on the right, and you think to yourself, oh, if I go and I give this person food, that's going to look really good, and plus I'm doing a good act. But the good act comes as a second priority to the main motivator, which was to impress people.
Yeah, good example, right? Can I give you another one? Take it with a pinch of salt. Take it with a pinch of salt. I like that example. Al-Imam al-Ghazali, in his Ihya Ulumuddin, has a whole chapter on Riyah. And he gives many examples. And he says that it's very clear acts of showing off or doing things for other than the sake of Allah. And there's things which are hidden. The hidden things. And that's what makes him so great. He goes below. He scratches below and goes below the surface. Give me an example. He says that a sign of insincerity of showing off, of the hidden meanings of showing off, is the example of a man, a young man, who wants to get married. And the father of the girl, who wants to impress, goes to a particular masjid. All laughing. From you girls can see the faces. So he says, I'm going to start going to this particular masjid. Why? Because when I approach Ammu so-and-so for the hand of his daughter, he's going to recognize me. Oh, yeah, I know you. You come to the mosque, yeah, mashallah. I see you in the front line. And Imam al-Ghazali says, him going to the mosque is not sincere. Him going to the masjid is not sincere. Because if the prospective father-in-law never went there, he wouldn't know. But you're going to Bayt Allah, the house of Allah, to do what? To pray to the father, or to pray to Allah? This is a hidden type of riyah. How many of us, maybe not that particular example, but there's other examples like that, hidden. This is where ilm al-tasawwuf is important. Let's move on. Let's get you to think. Alright, the result of tasawwuf, anyone?
If we reflect upon these states, which are obligatory to attain or to eliminate, we notice that they proceed from dispositions not only lacking in the human heart, but acquired only with some effort.
To remove the jealousy, the envy, to remove the arrogance, to remove the hatred. You can't read a book and it goes there and then. You can't read a hadith and it disappears, although Allah has the power to do that. It requires an effort. It requires struggle. It requires you to go against your anger. When you're angry and you remember, oh, subhanAllah, I need to control myself. At that moment, when the anger is there, you're able to control yourself. Whether it's for the sake of Allah or for the sake of whoever. But it's difficult. It's not easy. And it takes what? It takes willpower. You hear the willpower? Willpower. Alright? It takes the strength.
This results in human change so profound that the Quran in many verses terms it purification, as when Allah says in Surah Al-Ala, for example, He has succeeded who purifies himself.
قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, Allah says, praising this individual. he is successful. The one who has purified himself from anger, from jealousy, from stubbornness, all of these things that you dislike. If you get over it and you become victorious over yourself, Allah loves you. And He praises you in the Quran, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ. He has succeeded, or she has succeeded. He purifies himself.
Bringing about this change is the aim of the Islamic science of Sufism, and it cannot be termed bid'ah because the Sharia commands us to accomplish the change. At the practical level, the nature of this science of purifying the heart, like virtually all other traditional Islamic disciplines, requires that the knowledge be taken from those who possess it, a teacher.
The Prophet ﷺ, he was this amazing human being, amazing. And because he was so amazing and so, mashallah, the people around him became amazing. And the opposite is true. You can have somebody who's rotten, a horrible human being, and the people around him, what happens? What happens? If someone's horrible, and the people around him are always with him, what happens to other people? They become affected, don't they? Then you begin to take some of those qualities. Okay? So the idea for us to become like the Sahaba, it requires a teacher. Again, I've said several times tonight, you can't pick up a book, read it, and become pure. You can't remove that jealousy. Why? Because it's so hidden, it's so entrenched in your heart, that for most of us, we are not able to even recognize it until somebody points it out to you, or you start learning Tasawwuf, and you can, oh, subhanAllah, yeah, I do have that jealousy. Those signs that the Shaykh mentioned, I've got those signs. Oh, I'm in trouble. Alhamdulillah, I need to sort myself out. But then it needs a teacher. You've got to have a teacher to do this.
This is why historically we find that groups of students gathered around particular sheikhs to learn the discipline of Sufism from. While such schools or madhabs, past and present, have emphasized different ways to realize the attachment of the heart to Allah commanded by the Islamic revelation. Some features are found in all of them.
Alright, this is the last slide now. Inshallah, pay attention and we'll end off on this. Go ahead.
These are learning knowledge from a teacher by example.
So you have to, in order to become pure, to get over these diseases, you need a teacher who you can follow, who can help you, who can teach you, like a doctor of the heart. Right? You can't do it yourself. And then number 2,
then methodically increasing one's iman or faith by applying this knowledge through performing obligatory or supererogatory works of worship.
Which means, and among the greatest acts of sunnah, the extra acts of worship that are beyond that which is an obligation, is dhikr. Remembering Allah, doing dhikr, salat al-Nabi, Allahumma salli alayhi wa alayhi, istighfar, saying la ilaha illallah, mashallah, attending gatherings of dhikr, classes like this, reading the Quran. All of these things are powerful remedies to clean the heart.
There is much in the Quran and Sunnah that attests to the validity of this approach, such as the hadith related by Al-Bukhari above,
which we mentioned earlier. We'll end there, and next Monday, inshallah, we'll talk about the development of the science of Tasawwuf, how the ulama developed it, and some of the things that they spoke about, inshallah. And we'll also look at people who practice this from the Ummah, famous scholars who are household names Inshallah ta'ala. Right.